Welcome everyone to a special episode of Against the Call. It's been a minute since we've had a special guest on, but man, is this one special, guys. We got Hat Guy, aka Alex from the Escape Pod podcast. And Alex, man, we're so happy to have you today. How's your day going so far?
So far, so good. I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah, man, we were able to see that you don't get to talk sports that much on your own podcast. You know, it's a lot of Marvel, Star Wars, seeing what actresses are hot or not. But today where it's all about sports for the most part. So let's just get straight into it. One of the first questions for you is like, other than sports, we kind of want to get to know our guests that come on. So we would like to know what got you into podcasting in the first place.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So a lot of people don't know this, but I worked in the music industry since 2017. And I've lived in Miami like my whole life, and finally I had an opportunity to get a promotion to move out to Los Angeles because I was working for Spotify at the time, and so I moved out to Los Angeles, and I moved in this house with a bunch of my friends. One of those friends is Andrew, my now podcast co-host, who a lot of people know as Waffello, and we've known each other for about a year now, but I had known him for like a couple months before I moved in. And every day I was telling him, you need to have a podcast. You've got this great personality, but his content is just going up to people on the street and being like, who's your favorite Spider-Man? Yeah. His personality doesn't shine through in his content. So I was telling him for months and months and months, you need to do a podcast. You need to do a podcast. You need to do a podcast. And then finally he said, all right, fine. I will do a podcast, but my only caveat is you have to be my co-host. And I said, oh, wow. I didn't think about that at all. I was just thinking for him. And yeah, so when it became about me, and I was kind of in charge of it creatively, and we'll talk about this a little bit now, but the biggest industry in the world, that is, you're talking about something that isn't what your thing is sports talk shows. Sports talk shows are the biggest industry in the world for not being sports, but they're talking about sports. There's no nerd show on TV that's talking about the Marvel movies. It's just YouTubers and TikTokers and this and that. The biggest industry in the world for that is sports. And all the sports talk shows are debate shows. Undisputed, First Take. Colin Cowherd brings on guests every day now because the debates are what brings in the money. So I said, hey, there's no nerd debate shows. We're going to do that. So if you watch our podcast and you put up a clip of me and Andrew next to a clip of Stephen A. and Skip Bayless, same thing. It's the same thing. It's just they're arguing about who's better, Michael Jordan or LeBron, and we're arguing who's better, Batman or Spider-Man. That, like, it's the same thing. So yeah, so it's cool. It's like bringing my two like passions together.
Now, were you the one that came up with the idea itself, or was Andrew like involved in that?
Yeah, that was definitely my idea. He's not a big sports guy. Yeah. So luckily, and I think we'll talk about this a little bit, the Heat went on one of the most magical runs of my entire life, certainly, obviously this postseason. And it was very tough for me not being in Miami for that. Yeah. And Andrew kind of knew that. And so once it started getting good, I think Game 4, which was the game that Butler went off for 56, and this is my city, that game, Andrew was watching with me, and from then on he was hooked, and he watched every single game with me after that. So he's gotten into sports more now, but yeah, he's not really much of a sports watcher guy. I always have to send him the clips that I want to steal.
Is he gonna bandwagon on your teams, or is he gonna like find his own?
Yeah, he's from Alabama. So other than Alabama college football, they don't really have sports. So yeah. I think I'm gonna kind of forgive him for bandwagoning off of all my teams.
That's fun. Hey, they got USFL.
Yeah.
No, no one cares about that, Mike.
Well, talking about your podcast, there was this episode y'all did. It was like a therapy one. And I just want to ask, did the therapy session help y'all's relationship?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, we were super happy with that, and we were super grateful for her to come on the podcast, and obviously she's just hilarious. And yeah, definitely, because that episode previous, like that was the most mad we'd ever been at each other. We needed it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, the last thing before we get into sports is just a question we like asking our like podcast guests is, have you been recognized walking around like just out and about?
Yes, yeah, I'm very, very grateful that the podcast has obviously completely changed my life, but it's really had like an impact. Like, yeah, I always thought my whole life, I've been around famous people that get recognized where it's tedious and this and that. And I'm always like, ooh, I'm not good. I wouldn't like that. If I was ever famous enough to be recognized, like I'm going to be annoyed by it, because everybody I knew that was famous enough for that to be the case, they were always annoyed by that.
Yeah.
And, but no, it's such a blessing every time that somebody comes up. And I recently went to Disney last month, and I was walking around Star Wars land, and I couldn't, I was shocked. It was every 5 minutes somebody was coming up to me. It was really cool. And we've had the privilege to go to some Comic-Cons, some conventions, everything like that, and where it's like, from time to time I'll be at a McDonald's, or I'll be at I'll be at a Chick-fil-A, and the person doing my drive-through order is like, TikTok, and I'm like, yeah. But when you get those breeding where it's just nerds, where it's me and Andrew's in the jacket, and he's doing the like, it's every single person that's coming up to us pretty much. So it's cool. I'm very, very blessed. Yeah.
Yeah, and now sometimes with people who start off on YouTube or doing podcasts and stuff, sometimes they get that ability to be in like a short cameo in one of their favorite franchises. If you could pick one franchise to be in, what would you pick?
I've always had this. This is my number one dream, and it's not going to happen because I've talked too much shit about the franchise. But I'm an enormous Star Wars fan. New Hope and Empire Strikes Back are two of my favorite movies of all time. Like, I love Star Wars so much. It's so much of my childhood, everything like that. So badly, so badly. I want to be an Imperial with the hat and the uniform. And I don't want to be the main villain. I don't even want to be a side villain. I just want to have like one line. I want to say something like "fire the cannons" or something, and I want to die. But so badly do I want to be just a dick, like a Nazi face. I so badly want to do that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of the bad guy, in the TikTok world, you're known as the bad guy for having bad takes, and people say that you have bad takes. Now, my question is, do you believe people will think you have bad takes in sports as well?
No, I think I'm always right in sports, but I think I'm always right anyway. My opinion on people thinking I have bad takes, because obviously I'm aware of it, but my opinion on that is they just haven't realized I'm right yet. And that's okay. That's okay. You'll see it with this sports thing. I've got 2 takes I want to talk about on this podcast that I got murdered for 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and last year. And I'm right on both accounts. So
all right, well, let's get into it. Sports, man. So what are your favorite teams and players? I mean, we've already mentioned some of them, but for the guests that are watching, just go ahead and speak your mind.
So this is actually, I've got a good story for this. So my all of my teams are the South Florida teams, right? So Florida Panthers for hockey, the Marlins for baseball. I'm a huge Marlins fan. That's the thing I miss probably not the most about Miami, but I go to 10 to 20 Marlins games a year. So only the last 2 years, but for the last 2 years, I've gone to a lot of Marlins games. Every time I'm back home, I go to a Marlins game. I just love how casual a baseball game is. So they just played in LA, they played the Dodgers, and I went to 2 of the 3 games in the series. So I just love the Marlins. Anyway, so Marlins, Florida Panthers, and then Miami Heat. And then I do love the Miami Dolphins. They're definitely my second favorite team, but I am a Los Angeles Rams fan. And a lot of people are like, well, why are you a Rams fan? And now I'm able to say, well, I live in LA, which is a much quicker, shorter, nicer answer to that. But it's actually a lot more complicated than that. You guys seem like you're my age, so you'll probably remember. Do you remember those little tops called Beyblades, the little metal ones, so it's spin and hit each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so their names are like based off like the zodiac signs. So like Aries and Capricorn and this and that. My favorite was Aries, which is a ram. So when I was like 9, I was like really into rams. I was like, dude, rams are my favorite animal. Love rams. Like, like you know, I was a Rams kid. And I was like, oh, there's a team called the St. Louis Rams. I'm gonna like them. And then as my like love for like actual Rams faded, like my love for football only increased. And I had been rooting for the Rams for 2-3 years at this point. So I might as well. So I went to a bunch, probably 5 or 6 St. Louis Rams games before they moved to LA in 2016. And I've just remained a fan. I mean, I've gone to a game a year pretty much my whole life. I didn't go to a game in 2019, but that's the only year I can remember that I skipped. And I've well made up for it, obviously, because I went to a bunch of games last year in the Super Bowl year. But yeah, so I'm definitely, the Rams are my number one team of all my sports, and now it's really cool that I live in LA, and I live in LA for work. So yeah, like going to games is now going to be super casual. I'm super pumped about it.
Oh man, that's SoFi Stadium. Like, how is that in person?
It's a spaceship. It's weird. It's so big. It's like, I don't know how to like put it into words. I've spent some time in Europe, and like you go to one of those soccer stadiums and it's like, oh, this is like the biggest stadium in the world. But and look, that was years and years and years ago. That was like when I was 13. So probably those stadiums are still bigger. But you go to SoFi and it's like the sheer size. It's like ridiculous. I was just at Paycor Stadium where the Cincinnati Bengals play. I went there Sunday. It's a nice stadium and it's big and everything like that. It feels like SoFi dwarfs it. It really does. Yeah, SoFi's just massive. That's the biggest thing. And then it's a spaceship. It's like straight out of Star Wars.
Yeah. It's super nice stadium. One of the nicest in the league, I think.
It is.
You were talking about you like Miami teams, and I saw in one of your episodes you were in an FAU hat. Are you an FAU fan?
So so that's funny. My girlfriend of 5 years went to and just graduated from FAU. So so I grew up Florida State Seminole. My parents met there, so I owe that school my existence. So I'm a big Seminole guy, but the older I've gotten, the more and more dear friends I've made that have gone to UMiami or gone to Florida and our Gators, or gone to FAU, that I'm kind of a Florida college fan. If the Hurricanes are playing not FSU, I will be rooting for the Hurricanes. And that's kind of my thing, is I would wear a Hurricanes t-shirt. I would wear a Gators jersey. I've got plenty of FAU stuff. So I'm kind of a Florida sports fan, but let me fucking tell you, that March Madness run was electric. I was in town I was going to be in town for just the Tennessee game, I think. And they won the Tennessee game, and I stayed until they lost. And every single game I watched with all these frat kids and sorority girls that were at FAU at the moment. I didn't go to college. It was the closest thing I've had to the college experience. It was just electric. Every game was incredible.
Man, so FSU, I mean, how big are you into college sports in general?
Well, I will watch every big game for FSU. I was glued to the TV for the LSU game from week 1, the LSU FSU game. And then I will watch like the biggest games. So I watched Colorado State, like I watched Bama, Texas. But I'm not watching Ohio State beat Southern Miss 60-60. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, and I couldn't tell you. I could tell you the Heisman race right now, probably, but that's about it. I think my college predictions are pretty good, but I would never bet that sport. The lines scare the shit out of me. But yeah. So So I'd say I'm a casual fan of college football, but I would say I'm like one of the hardest casual fans.
Okay. And that makes sense. I mean, I think me and Mike though, we got to pitch to you. Come to UCF, man. Come to UCF. Come to UCF for a game.
UCF is
I would love to. That sounds so fun.
The best team in Florida right there. But speaking of one of the teams in Florida, Kodak Black ran out with FAU. How'd you feel about that?
Incredible. Incredible, man. And like that guy, he means so much to that area and our area and Florida and this and that. Like, he goes to all the hockey games. He's a huge Florida Panthers fan. I'm happy for him. I remember when that guy was coming out when, 2015, obviously no Flock and everything like that. Like that was everybody's anthem and this and that. And it's like now he's kind of an OG. He's been around the block, the young guys look up to him, and it's so great that he's kind of retired, semi-retired, and he's just enjoying South Florida sports. I love that. I wish that guy nothing but the best.
Yeah, man. Yeah. He's acting like he's part of the team. You gotta love somebody with a passion like that. But you were able to mention the Colorado State-Colorado game, which was one of the biggest games of the weekend. And I just wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Deion he's everywhere now. What are your thoughts about him, his coaching style, everything about that's happened over at Colorado?
Well, Americans, we gravitate a lot to just star power. So I don't think any of this surprises me. With the transfer portal and how recruiting is nowadays and NIL, it's very easy to see how he could get this program turned around immediately. I just think it's great for the sport. I mean, obviously he's bringing in so many new fans. I mean, the ratings that game got, being a 10 p.m. Eastern time game.
Yeah.
He's adding, there's like 30% of sports fans that aren't college football fans that are watching Colorado right now. And I think it's dope. And I think the sunglasses is hilarious. And my big thing, I don't think there's anything that I can say about Deion and what he's doing that nobody else has said, other than I think after next year, he is going to LSU.
Really?
I think Brian Kelly is a superb coach, and I think he's an excellent recruiter, but more and more, our generation, if you're not cool, if you're kind of cringy and whatever, everything that all these words that we could use to describe Brian Kelly, like doing the TikTok dance and not even getting that recruit, and doing the Southern accent at the basketball game, all these things, if they continue to get embarrassed by FSU in week 1 after they should be in playoff contention. I'm a big Colin Cowherd guy. Colin Cowherd said they're winning the Natty this year. Like if continually they continue to disappoint and eliminate themselves from playoff contention in week 1, if it's 3 years in a row, he's going to be on the hot seat. If in 4 years, in the next 2 years, he's not, doing what LSU feels like they're going to be doing, Deion's going there, because Deion is leaving Colorado as soon as Shedeur and Travis go pro. I don't think either of those kids are going pro this year. I don't think Shedeur or Travis are going. Obviously, Travis can't go pro, and Travis can't leave because he's already transferred once. So Travis can't leave. I don't think Shedeur is going pro because of how much money he can make in NIL, and Travis and his dad. But I think after this and next year, I think if Brian Kelly hasn't gotten it figured out in LSU, I think Deion's going there.
Yeah, Deion is definitely opposed to Shedeur going to the NFL this next season. He's already talked about that a little bit. But you bring up the Brian Kelly and LSU. I think that one idea that's been circulating a lot that I kind of agree with, instead of LSU for the SEC, Texas A&M, they're struggling. They're getting rid of Jimbo very soon. And you got to think about how great of a location it'd be for Deion in Texas recruiting there. Also, you got to think about the NIL opportunities. Johnny Manziel was there. He could get him back to the top. I think that could be a little bit more likely, but I'm not disagreeing with you about the LSU thing. I think that Deion is SEC bound at some point or another. I do think that he's not ever – I'm not going to say never, but I don't see him going to the NFL. I don't think that that's his life. I agree. That is from what he preaches. Yeah. But yeah, Mike, what do you got to say?
Yeah, I don't see him going to the NFL. I see like people say it's bound to happen, but I feel like college is the perfect spot for him. I don't see him doing great in the NFL. because that recruiting isn't there. Like obviously your Deion Sanders players might want to come play for you, but it's not that same hype that you can get from college.
Exactly.
But speaking of NFL, let's just get right into the NFL season. We're in week 3 coming up. The first thing I want to ask you, you're a Rams fan. What are your ceiling and floor predictions after these 2 weeks?
All summer. All summer. I'm a delusional fan, I guess. I think we're going 11-6. I'm a delusional fan, I guess. I think we're going 11-6 all summer. People have been like, that's crazy. Y'all are a bottom feeder team. I have a dear, dear friend of mine who I respect the hell out of. I respect the hell out of his opinions. He is an excellent gambler. He does all of the fantasy leagues that you could possibly imagine. He's in 1,000 of them. And I really respect him. And all summer, I would be like, what do you think of this 5-12 thing? Everybody's picking the Rams to go 5-12. And he always said, if the Rams get 5 wins, you should be thrilled with the season. All summer he's been saying this to me. And these last 2 weeks, I'm texting him, and he keeps with that. He keeps with that energy. He still thinks we're not going to get 5 wins. Call me a delusional fan. I think we're going 10-7, 11-6. I'm sticking with it.
I mean,
delusional. I really think I said this offseason. Everybody was like, you have the worst defense in the NFL. I was like, I think we're gonna have a top 3 offense. And after 2 weeks, you add Cooper Kupp to that.
Yeah.
They're looking like a top offense. I'll have to give you
Just saying, the offensive line's playing great. Steve Avila, I said it. We got the best guard in the draft. I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
not wrong. Puka Nacua. Matata, baby. I'm telling you.
And that brings up like the next question here. I mean, what are your thoughts on Puka's future? I mean, even with Kupp returning, I mean, obviously Kupp's going to go back to wide receiver 1, but who knows? Maybe it's not as obvious as we might think.
Well, I was talking to another good buddy of mine who's another degenerate gambler. I'm in a group chat. I think there's like 37 of us. And every week we bet 5 games in the NFL per week. And then we have a league. Last year I won the league. But we have a league where we tallied the bets and everything like that. I'm doing okay. I'm in like 8th place right now. But I was talking to one of my buddies in that league who I respect the hell out of. I think his football opinions are excellent. He was really early on Tyreek Hill. He's really early on a lot of stuff. He's a really, really smart guy. And I was saying to him, oh, I guess that Cooper Kupp is just a Sean McVay merchant. Like I've been saying for the last 2 years, Cooper Kupp's the best wide receiver in the NFL. You can't do what he did the Super Bowl season, the Offensive Player of the Year season. It's the best receiver season in NFL history. You cannot tell me that is a fluke, everything like that. And now Puka Nacua shows up and in 2 games he's doing everything that Cooper Kupp was doing. And I'm like, oh, 5th round pick. Cooper Kupp's the 2nd round pick or a 3rd round pick. It's just Sean McVay is the best coach in the NFL by a country mile. And I was like, oh, like that's all it is. And he was like, my buddy was like, no, I think Puka's just good. He was like, I think Puka's just good. I think Cooper Kupp is just good. I don't think it's a Sean McVay thing. So I don't know what to believe. I don't know if Puka's actually good or not. I'm just going to enjoy the ride. I'm going to see who's right and who's wrong. Because if you would have asked me this question a week ago, I would have told you Cooper Kupp is a bum. And I'm wrong. Like Cooper Kupp is a bum and Puka Nacua is also probably a bum, and neither of them would be doing anything for literally any other team but Sean McVay's a genius. But now, after talking to him, I really trust him. So maybe they're just good. So we will see.
I mean, it's not just Puka either. You got Tutu Atwell, who's just like killing it at the same time. So maybe, I don't know. I'm leaning more towards the McVay train. Obviously, you can't deny that they're the most talented wide receiver core at the moment with how they've been playing. I mean, it's insane. No, I don't think I'm not going to say nobody because you, of course, nobody really expected the wide receiver core to like be that good. The Rams team to be that good to keep up with the 49ers in that last game last weekend. I don't know. I'm excited. I know during the offseason, me and Mike were looking at the roster. We said if everyone stays healthy, and we weren't even looking at Puka, if everyone stays healthy, they could go to the playoffs. We did say that, and I think that it's still – I mean, it's a bigger possibility now than it was over the offseason.
And they're not even healthy right now. Like Cooper Kupp's not there. They're being a top offensive team.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Matthew Stafford, man, that's a good thing. And also that brings up the next question for you. How were you feeling as a Rams fan whenever Jared Goff got traded for Matthew Stafford? We just want to hear what you have to say.
I love Jared with all my heart. I love that man so much. I did not love him when he was the quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. He frustrated me to no end. I always like to bring up, do you guys remember the Jets game from 2020? The Rams had the best defense in the NFL in 2020.
Oh, I do remember this.
And we are trying to make a playoff push. And if we win that game, there is a path. Right at the time, the Jets are 0-14 or 0-12. If we win just the Jets game, there is a really legitimate path to the 1 or 2 seed in the NFC. If we win against the Jets.
Yeah.
And the Jets beat us and then lose out on the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes to now get, Zach Wilson, which obviously, I'm happy that they got screwed completely because they completely screwed me. So I'm happy that they screwed themselves. But God, like Jared lost us that game, and Jared's lost us a lot of games. Jared, oh my gosh. But so I knew he was going to get traded that offseason. I really was. This is funny in hindsight. Obviously, I'm thrilled it turned out the way it did, but I was really pulling for Deshaun Watson. I really wanted to get Deshaun Watson. And then, so when the notification came through that we got Stafford for Goff in 2 firsts, I was legitimately disappointed. I was like, oh, that sucks. I really wanted Deshaun Watson. Obviously, thrilled we didn't get Deshaun Watson. But yeah, so I love him with all my heart. I am rooting for him for the rest of his life. I love him. I'm so happy for him and his beautiful girlfriend that they're engaged. I'm happy that he has been killing it for the Lions. I am a de facto Lions fan. I made more money on the Jaguars and Lions last year than any other team. I love the Lions so much. I'm always rooting for them. I'm always going to bet on them. I bet on them week 1. I think that Jared is a baller. But, I definitely prefer Stafford, and I'm happy we've got him.
yeah, everyone's pulling for the Lions. Like, no one wants to see them do bad. And I think the Lions are the perfect fit for Jared Goff.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Rams trading, they just traded Cam Akers to the Vikings. How do you feel about that?
Other than we traded him for a stapler and a box of chocolate. That was unfortunate, but it's fine. I don't know what happened. I got no insider information for you, unfortunately, but apparently Cam Akers is a locker room problem. He's good. And he played so good at the end of last year. And I'll tell you, his rookie year, golly, he carried us in all of the Jared Goff games that Jared Goff played bad enough for us to lose. If we won that game, it was because of Cam Akers. Cam Akers carried us in so many of those games. He carried us in the playoff game where we beat Seattle in Seattle. He carried us in the Green Bay game that we had a chance to win. And then when he tore his Achilles, I mean, that was the worst news ever for me. The Super Bowl year, that just really, really sucked. Obviously, it ended up not being the biggest deal in the world. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we still won the Super Bowl. Obviously, he came back from the Achilles, which was a freaking miracle. But I mean, yeah.
Same sense, since that injury, he's I don't know, and the locker room problems is a big deal. And then also you got Kyren Williams for you guys, who is
doing amazing,
looking at the same level, if not better, in my opinion, than Cam Akers. But for us talking about college and NFL, there was a big guy back last year. I don't know if you remember. He goes by the name Stetson Bennett, and I'm just wondering what you think about him being on your team.
Well, apparently there's some serious issues going on with him.
Yeah.
Just came out.
Yeah, just a few days ago. I think he got moved down to the practice squad, correct?
Yeah, but he's not practicing or anything. He's separate from the team. I don't know what that is about.
I don't know. You live in LA, so let us know.
No, yeah, I don't know what it's about, but
no,
I think look, I like him. I think that There's the fishing video like that I thought was really, really funny. There's a lot of stuff I like his moxie. I like that he's like, oh yeah, y'all think I'm a bum, but I'm going to show you I'm not a bum. I like that. That being said, he's a fucking bum. He's terrible. So bad. He's so bad. And he's so old. He's 800 years old. The reason he had to step away from the team is probably because he's got a herniated disc or something. This guy is 200 years old. We're the youngest team. We're like the second youngest team in the NFL per like average age. If Stetson Bennett wasn't on our team, we'd easily be the youngest. It brings up our age average by 20 years.
As a rookie.
He's so old. Yeah, so I just think he's a bum. Like, I saw him in the preseason. I knew it at Georgia. You know that. It's, the AJ McCarron. AJ McCarron's a bum. You know what I'm saying? But, like, it's the same thing with Stetson. It's just, he was on two of the greatest college football rosters ever assembled, and he had nothing to do with their success.
Yeah. Well, speaking of QB still, with Matthew Stafford, he is getting a little old. Do you think the Rams should go quarterback in the draft, in this upcoming draft or next upcoming draft?
I don't know. This draft is loaded. I mean, I saw a buddy of mine told me the other day that he thinks that this quarterback draft is the most stacked quarterback draft that he's ever seen in his life. I don't know if I agree with that. A couple years ago, the Lawrence Fields, that draft, and then obviously the Baker Lamar draft was really stacked. Obviously the Herbert Tua Burrow draft is stacked, but like all of these drafts other than Burrow, Tua, and Herbert have aged kind of poorly. Like we thought, oh my gosh, Fields and Lance and Wilson, all those guys are fucking bums. Oh, Mac Jones is a bum too. The only good one from that draft is Lawrence. So like, obviously hindsight is 2020, but like, yeah, maybe we should draft a guy because you're gonna get like Bo Nix with the 26th pick or something. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy how stacked, and like this draft is stacked at positions too. Like there's some really good. The freaking Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming out of this draft. Like there's some crazy position players. There's some crazy skill players coming out of this draft too. So it's maybe this is the year to draft a quarterback. Definitely not next year. If we don't draft a quarterback this year, I don't think we should draft next year because next year it's Shador and nobody.
That's true.
At the moment. At
the moment, of course, there's going to be some guys that come out, but then they're going to be the second and third pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you mentioned, I mean, we can't just go by. He, as you can see here, he's got a little Boston thing, and he's a big Mac Jones supporter.
He just came at my quarterback. I don't think he's bad.
So please elaborate for us.
He's exactly what we said about Stetson Bennett. He's just like
Well, the thing with Mac Jones, his rookie year, he had a good rookie year. No one can say that it was a bad rookie year. And I'll admit, his second year, not good. But I have a reason, and that's because the man named Matt Patricia is the worst coach
absolutely
ever seen in my life for the Patriots. Mm-hmm. He was good when he was defensive coach. Why they switched him to offense? No idea.
It's Bill Subaris was that. I'm with you. And here's my thing. I've always had this take, and you can disagree with me, whatever. I am very low on good or average quarterbacks. Any guy that like is constantly in like the top 20 to top 15 to top 10 range, every guy that's like, okay, here's the top 10 quarterbacks. There's like 4 of them that are elite, and then the next 6 are like great and could win you a Super Bowl. That next 10 that like the Kirk Cousins of the world, in my opinion, the Mac Jones of the world, if your ceiling does not include a Super Bowl, I think your team is actively wasting time having you on their roster, and they need to get rid of you. The ceiling for quarterbacks is only getting higher and higher and higher. Is there any question that Caleb Williams is going to step into whoever has the worst team in the NFL next year and immediately, oh, that's the guy. You can win a Super Bowl with that guy. If you don't have that, you should not have that quarterback.
That's true. I agree with you on
that. And that's what Mac Jones is. Mac Jones is Kirk Cousins. It's the same. I am really hard on the Cowboys because they are the biggest brand in the NFL. The NFL is better when they are good.
Mm-hmm.
And Dak Prescott is a bum. And you're right. He's not a bottom 32 quarterback, but I would rather have Zach Wilson than Dak Prescott because Dak Prescott actively holds that team back. He actively holds that team back every year. And you're going to see it again this year. That defense should win them a Super Bowl. That defense is unrealistic how good it is. And they're playing my Rams after their bye week. I think we should just sit everybody. Don't even play the damn game. They're going to kill it. That defense has the capability to legitimately kill Matthew Stafford. Like, he will die on the football field like Tua Tagovailoa or DeMar Hamlin. Like he could die in that game. And like, so don't even play him. Like, that's how good that defense is. And Dak is going to hold him back in January. Watch. He's going to hold them back in January.
It's every year.
It's the same thing.
As he always does. And I feel like that's Mac Jones. Now, the Patriots are a much worse team than the Cowboys. So you probably, like, he's probably one of the best players on the Patriots, even then. But it's still, if you do not have one of the elite or great guys in the NFL, I don't think Stafford's elite, but he can win a Super Bowl. I don't think Jalen Hurts is elite, but he can win a Super Bowl. Like, if you don't have one of those guys, then you are actively shooting yourself in the foot, has always been my opinion.
Yeah, I honestly agree with that statement. Like, you need to have one of those guys to win the Super Bowl. And I'm really determining Mac Jones based off this year. That's how I see it, because we have a new offensive coordinator in Bill O'Brien, who I think is a good coach. And if Mac Jones doesn't do good, and that now I see, okay, we need to move on, maybe find someone else. But there was a guy you told us you wanted to talk about originally, and that is Brandon Staley. Let's just get right into that.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what you have to say, because one of our good friends who comes on here a little bit, Victionary HD, for some of the viewers who remember him, he's big Chargers guy. His takes on Brandon Staley are a little here and there, but I'm really curious to see what Alex has to say on this one, especially with you being in LA.
So I don't know if y'all remember this, but Staley was our defensive coordinator in 2020, the year that we had the best defense in the league. And mind you, that's the best defense that I've ever seen on a Rams team. That defense was unreal. And here's my thing. I've always disliked Brandon Staley because call it true or not, like, you could tell me I'm full of shit, whatever. Sorry, am I allowed to curse on here? I've cursed already.
You're fine.
Okay. You can tell me I'm full of shit, but I think that Brandon Staley cost us the game against the Packers. Fully. I fully blame him. He was getting interviewed for the Chargers job. Obviously, the Chargers job was the most attractive job on the market. And all these jobs were filling up super quick. And you cannot take a job unless your team is out.
Mm-hmm.
And I fully believe that the defense was the best defense in the NFL through, 18 weeks, 17 weeks, because it was amazing. We got a pick six in the Seattle game in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And Seattle was like 5-point favorites in that game, and we killed them. We beat them 30-20. In Seattle, we killed them. I fully believe that Brandon Staley, even though Aaron Donald was hurt, I fully believe Brandon Staley tanked that game and lost us that game to take the Chargers job. You could tell me I'm full of shit. You could tell me that's ridiculous because Kevin O'Connell, like, handshook agreed on the Vikings job, even though we were in the Super Bowl, and then took the Vikings job the day after the Super Bowl. You could tell me, but I really feel like the Chargers, they're not a good organization. They probably put the pressure on Staley. We gave up 33 points or 32 points to that Packers team when I really felt like we really matched up with them. Like, I really felt like we should not have lost that game. And it was super, super close. At one point there, they did end up beating us by 2 scores, but that was Jared's fault. Even though Jared only had 4 fingers on his right hand, because he broke his finger in that Seattle game. But that's always been my take is so I hate Staley. So I was very critical of him year one. And he's doing, we're going for it on 4th down at our own 20 and this and that. And I was like, I hate this guy. This guy sucks. Yeah. And then the game that you guys may remember against the Raiders, the Raiders-Chargers game where if they tied, they would have both made the playoffs. I was rooting for them to just take a knee the whole game.
Yeah.
I was rooting for that so hard. I was like, that would be amazing. That'd be historic to see both teams just tie on purpose. I was so excited for that to be a possibility. Obviously, they played the game. Staley calls a timeout. And the Raiders interim coach, because that was the Gruden year, I forget, Bisaccia? Rick Bisaccia? I forget his name, but the interim Raiders coach said that he was going to just call it and make it a tie because it was an overtime. There were 45 seconds left or something. And he said that when Staley called that timeout, he said, fuck you, I want to get knock you out of the playoffs. And that's why they went for it, and they ended up getting the field goal that won them the game. So Staley cost them the season there with poor coaching because it was no reason to call a timeout there. No reason other than to piss them off.
Yeah.
I was clamoring online, we need to fire this guy. That guy needs to be fired for that decision. And they didn't fire him. And then the next year, the Jags game is the worst coaching. And I had money on that game. I had quite a bit of money on that game for the Jags. And I was like, in the second quarter, we're down 28-0. And I'm like, oh, no problem. No problem. Staley sucks. And I believe in Trevor Lawrence. And I'm sitting on this couch and everybody's sitting with me. And they're like, you're a fucking idiot. This is a ridiculous thing to be watching. You should turn this off. And they came back because Staley's a bum. And you should have fired him after that. And you still haven't fired him. And now back to back, he's a defensive guy. You have the most expensive defense in the NFL. And you're giving up 50 points a game. It's ridiculous. How he hasn't been fired yet shows how much of a dog shit organization the Chargers are. It's unbelievable.
The Chargers are really turning Justin Herbert into Phillip Rivers Part 2 right now.
It's ridiculous. You need to fire him and pay freaking Lincoln Riley a blank check. You need to give him $1 billion. Give him part ownership in the franchise. Golly.
Yeah, you know that the Chargers have the number 1 offense right now, but they're 0-2. So
in a top defense that they should be.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's just unacceptable. Brandon Staley has been on the hot seat since last year. If they keep him past this year without any, I mean, the Chargers aren't going to the AFC Championship or anything like that. Let's be real here. So he's got to go after this year. I'm fully on board with you, Alex. Like he's got to go. I think he should have went, like you said, right after the Jags game. Yeah. I think he should have been gone right then.
I thought he was gone. I thought he was he's fired.
I've been calling for his job since year 1. And I just feel vindicated. Because after year 1, everybody was like, what the fuck do you mean? Fire him after year 1. And then they were winning games last year. And last year they had a Super Bowl roster. Last year they had one of the best rosters in the NFL. And they're winning some games last year. And everybody's like, see, Alex, you called for his job too early. And then the playoff game happened. And I was like, So that's one of my takes. The other take I've got a lot of heat for last year and 2 years ago. And this is my Josh Allen take. I think that peaked in the MVP year, the year that he got 6 MVP votes. And then obviously everybody remembers the playoff game against the Chiefs. And because that season ended so strongly, everybody forgets that he was way worse that season than he was the year prior. And then I was very, very loudly in my friend group. I really wish I had social media then. I really wish, because this take aged like fine wine, is I was very loudly in my friend group saying Josh Allen is going to have the worst year since his rookie year of his life last year, talking about last year. And everybody was like, you are an idiot. He's going to win MVP. And my main argument for it was I think Brian Daboll's a stud. And I think that, Sean McDermott is a good coach, whatever, say what you want about him. He's a defensive head coach. Defensive head coach, largely in the NFL, doesn't work out. Yeah. Doesn't work out largely in the NFL. Statistically, now you need an offensive coach. If you look at all the best teams in the NFL right now, all of them are offensive coaches right now. And like, sure, you got guys like Tomlin and Belichick, who are some of the best coaches of all time, that are keeping their teams afloat because they're legendary and everything like that. But for the most part, I mean, look at the Eberflus disaster in Chicago right now. I mean, it's a mess. And they didn't have the worst year in the world last year. Like, I was super happy with the Bears last year. They were losing competitive games. Well, they're just terrible. Anyway, I just felt that Sean McDermott is not Daboll, and without Daboll, they're going to regress. And I bet on the Giants to make the playoffs last year, which is something that a lot of my friends were yelling at me about. They were like, what a ridiculous statement. That division is stacked, and the Giants have one of the worst teams in the NFL on paper. And obviously I was right on the Giants thing, but I was at the Rams-Bills game week 1, and they killed us. It was like 38-10 or something. They just killed us. And my group chat would not shut up. You saw that, your worst take of your life. Josh Allen MVP. All of them were betting Josh Allen MVP after that night. They're yelling at me, your Rams suck, like everything like that. No, it just turned out that the Rams were terrible last year. And Josh Allen, then they killed the Titans, and everybody's like, Josh Allen's the best player of all time. Patrick Mahomes, everything like that. And then the Dolphins game, and then the Damar Hamlin game where they would have gotten trounced by the Bengals. And then they played the Bengals in the playoffs in Buffalo and got absolutely trounced. And he didn't look great. And then obviously week 1 this year. And yeah, sure, week 2. Wow, they killed the Raiders. Congratulations. Wow, Josh Allen, no interceptions. You know, in his last 20 games, Josh Allen has 39 turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the Jets game, that the one game, his TD to interception ratio is 1-3.
He lost to Zach Wilson.
Yeah, he lost to Zach Wilson. He made Zach Wilson look good that game, actually.
His ceiling is he can be the best quarterback in the world. That's his ceiling. But his floor is he'll lose you a game to Zach Wilson. And then, I mean, he has 39 turnovers in his last game. Do you know how many turnovers he had last game against the Raiders? 0. So he had 39 turnovers in his last 19 games before this week, which is more than 2 a game. And everybody's telling me, and it wasn't like that with Brian Daboll. You cannot tell me it was like that with Brian Daboll. And yet Brian Daboll last year was got Daniel Jones $30 million. Did you see Daniel Jones against the Cowboys? That guy makes $30 million a year. That's how good of a coach Brian Daboll is.
Thank you. That just helped me prove a point with one of our friends. He is the biggest Daniel Jones, like, he loves him. He says Daniel Jones is the problem. It's everyone around him.
He sucks. Daniel Jones is terrible. Daniel Jones is so bad. I bet on that game. I went 4-1 week 1. That was my loss. I thought that the Giants could cover. I am never betting on Daniel Jones again in my life. Never again in my entire life. And a lot of my friends bet the Giants last week, where they barely beat the Cardinals and did not cover. I'm never, ever, ever, for the rest of my life, will I bet on Daniel Jones. Holy shit.
Yeah. I'm actually okay. So there's a bet. This is on Prize Picks, by the way. There's a bet going on, and I'm seeing a lot of people picking over on Daniel Jones rushing yards. The line was set at 36.5. I put the under on that. I'm not gonna lie. They're going up against 49ers, one of the best rushing defenses in the league right now.
I don't think it's gonna hit.
Dude, everyone's riding over on Daniel Jones. Nah, I'm riding on that train. I'm against Daniel Jones this year, especially our one friend. He thinks that it's justified, the contract. I mean, the contract for Daniel Jones almost lost him Saquon Barkley.
It will eventually.
Oh yeah, of course. But
that's my big anti-Dak sentiment, by the way, because obviously $30 million for Daniel Jones now, $30 million for your quarterback is kind of a bargain, which is like a crazy statement to say. But at the time when Dak got paid 40, he was like the 3rd highest paid quarterback in the NFL or something. And that was my thing, is it's like, you've got this great team around him. He's not worth that. Why the fuck are you paying this bum whose ceiling is to be the 12th best quarterback in the NFL. Ceiling, like, and you're paying him $40 million a year, and that's why they had to give up a lot of pieces. I mean, obviously they had to trade Amari Cooper because they couldn't pay him. He's having a great year, or had a great year last year. Like all this, and that's my take. But Daniel Jones, I don't know if they're losing anybody paying him $30 million. You're losing games because you have him at quarterback. Like,
I mean, you brought in Darren Waller to be your number one guy, and you didn't score once against the Cowboys. Like, not even a field goal.
what even is Daniel Jones' ceiling? Like, is Daniel Jones' ceiling a top 18 quarterback in the NFL?
I'd say top 20. I'm agreeing with Mike right
Top
there.
20 quarterback.
The best play of his entire career, he fell flat on his face.
He face planted right in front of the end zone.
Like that's my thing. Jared Goff, his peak, I think that Jared Goff's ceiling is MVP Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Like fully. I
agree with that.
Like Jared Goff, the Super Bowl year 2018, when we went to the Super Bowl and lost to your Patriots. Congratulations, by the way. He outdueled Patrick Mahomes.
He did.
Patrick Mahomes had 2 interceptions in that game. Jared Goff had 0.
He's undefeated against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, he is.
Like, wait, what?
He's undefeated against Patrick Mahomes.
He is. But like, dude, Jared's ceiling, like, can win you some games. Like, what are some of these ceilings in the NFL? Dak Prescott ceiling, probably top 12 quarterback. Fucking Jared Goff ceiling, like, whatever. You know, yeah, what's Mac Jones' ceiling? Is it a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? No.
No. It's like top 15, honestly.
Yeah, there's so many better quarterbacks in the league.
I'd say top 15 is his ceiling.
Now, his floor, very high. Mac Jones is one of the highest floors in the NFL because Patrick Mahomes, obviously his ceiling and how he is most of the time is the best quarterback in the NFL. But Mahomes' floor, he can lose you some games. Mm-hmm. If Mahomes is bad, he's really bad. It just happens very rarely. But he lost to that terrible Colts team a couple years ago.
And Kadarius Toney just didn't have hands in week 1.
Yeah, but that wasn't. I don't blame.
That wasn't Patrick
Mahomes for any of that.
Yeah, that no offense decided to show up except for Patrick Mahomes, and they could not complete a pass.
It's hard without Kelsey.
Some
of those games for Mahomes without Kelsey, it's.
I bet that game before Kelsey was out, so I got that game at I want to say 6.5 or 7. Which was just illegal. Like, that was such good value. I don't know. I just believe in the Lions. I bet them again this week, and obviously it burned me. But
it was close.
It was.
You were onto something there. But you mentioned earlier about your like group chat and everything like that. You mentioned a little bit of fantasy. Me and Mike, we're big into fantasy football. We just wanted to ask you if you play.
So for my whole life, I've been tempted and asked profusely by many, many, many of my friends to do fantasy football. And here's my take on it. I don't like fantasy football because I am such a die-hard Rams fan. I don't ever want to be put in a scenario where, I've got the 4th overall pick in my draft and the best player available is CMC. I should definitely take CMC. But he's a 49er. I don't want to be rooting for the 49ers every week while simultaneously rooting for the Rams and then rooting for him twice a year. I hate the sentiment that it's like, I'm a Patriots fan and we're playing the Bengals, but I have Jamar Chase. So Patriots, please win, but also Jamar get 3 touchdowns. I hate that. I hate that so much. I could never do that. I'm just too much of a Rams fan. So that's why I love betting games, because betting games is my fantasy, because I 49ers Giants tonight. I could bet that the Rams don't have any horse in that race. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I really never bet on the Seahawks or the 49ers or the Cardinals to win. I never do that because I don't want to be rooting for them.
Yeah.
And like last year, there was a smidge chance that the Rams could make the playoffs. It was impossible, but there was like a little tiny baby chance that we could have made the playoffs last year at the end with Baker Mayfield. and we needed like a bunch of teams to lose.
Yeah.
And I just bet against all those teams. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to be rooting against them anyway. So that's how it is for me. That being said, I was coerced into a fantasy league this year. So I am currently in fantasy, but I had some caveats. I didn't want to take it seriously, so I didn't do any research. And I don't know if you guys know this, but on our podcast, we have a running joke about David Montgomery. I have said the sentence, underrated Chicago Bears running back David Montgomery, 1,000 times on our podcast. Obviously, he isn't on the Bears. He is on the Lions, but it's fine. So David Montgomery is a running joke on our podcast. Everybody knows that. So I had the first overall pick in this year's fantasy draft, and I was like, I'm going to draft David Montgomery. And I was like, not taking it seriously at all. And all of them were like, no, Alex, you have to take it seriously. And so they peer pressured me into taking it seriously. So I didn't do any research. I was like, fuck me. So I'm doing quick research on my computer, whatever. So the caveat is I knew I was going to overdraft Rams, so I underdrafted Rams. I totally would have drafted Puka, but I was like, I'm not going to draft Puka. I'm not going to draft any Rams was my thing. So I didn't draft any Rams, and I didn't draft any teams that play the Rams this season. So my draft board is a mess.
Oh,
it's a mess because that's hilarious limitations. I mean, there was great value. I could have gotten George Kittle super late, but fuck that guy. I hate him. I'm not going to draft George Kittle. So my team is by far the worst in the league, but I'm 1-1. And I think I'm going to win some games. I really overdrafted Calvin Ridley, but I bet Trevor Lawrence to win MVP. So I'm like, all right, I've got Trevor Lawrence to win MVP. I might as well put my money where my mouth is. So I drafted Calvin Ridley in the third. Really overdrafted him, but it worked out week 1.
I think
week 2 not so much, but it's fine. We ball. And I've got Jay Jettas, so he's obviously carrying me right now. I've got Mahomes. I got Mahomes in the second.
Nice.
Yeah, it's cool. It's whatever.
Mahomes and Jefferson as your 2 isn't a bad wide receiver duo.
Yeah, but Mahomes has been trashed these last 2 weeks.
He has. Luckily, I did not get him, but I have Justin Herbert right now and Lamar Jackson. Lamar really scared me week 1. I thought he was going to be a bum. Luckily, he picked it up in the second half of last week's game.
And be glad you didn't draft David Montgomery with that injury that just happened. Yeah. So you got lucky, man, but we look forward to hearing about your fantasy season coming up. But one of our last NFL questions for you is, with a Super Bowl, who do you think is going to the Super Bowl, your AFC and NFC team?
My preseason prediction was Jags-Lions.
No, I'm sorry.
What?
This would never happen.
I would not see that happening.
The NFL scriptwriters wouldn't want that. Sticking with that?
I don't think I'm sticking with it, but I refuse to take one of the NFL elites. I think the Eagles are bad. I'm ready for the Eagles to not make the playoffs this year. I'm excited about that.
Bengals.
I mean, the Bengals look terrible. Obviously, they looked bad through 2 weeks last year. But last year, those were like, I don't know, they played okay. Like, they look terrible. This calf strain, do you guys know Matthew Sponauer?
No.
He's on TikTok. He's a sports guy. I don't know. He's got a podcast. He's great. He said, I saw a video of his yesterday or 2 days ago, and it was like, the Bengals' mismanagement of Burrow's calf strain may be a season killer. I think absolutely. If they lose this game to the Rams and they go 0-3, their season is probably over. Because here's the issue. Their next 3 games, super winnable. It's Rams, Cardinals, and another bad team. But the issue is that all 3 of those games, because they're 0-2, are must-win games. If they lose any of those games and they come out of the stretch 2-3, 1-4, 0-5, their season is over. Their season is over. They're not even going to make the playoffs. Doesn't matter how good Joe Burrow is. It doesn't matter how good Jamar Chase is. So I don't like the Bengals. I think that the Jags can't get over the Mahomes hump. But I think the Jags. I'm sticking with where my money is. I'm keeping my money where my mouth is. If Lawrence and the Jags have another bad game, I'm betting on Lawrence to win MVP again. And I think that the Jags are probably going to make it out of the AFC for me. I just think that they can't get over Mahomes, and I'm just praying that Mahomes runs into a Buffalo or a Cincinnati or another good team in the playoffs that knocks them out. The Jags, I think, are going to be the 1 seed in the AFC. I don't think there's any question about that. That division is a guaranteed 6 games, and they just played their toughest game on their schedule. I legitimately think they're going to lose 4 games or less. And yeah, the Chiefs are always going to be in the mix, but this is the worst Chiefs team that we've seen in a long time. They're a great defense, but they're not figuring out the offense. Now, do I expect Andy Reid and Mahomes to figure out the offense? Sure, but I think they've got some real problems. I think that Kelsey's getting older. Kelsey's never had an injury problem. Did you see that the game against Detroit was like the first game he missed in like 200 games? That's a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He didn't play amazing last week. They didn't win because of their offense. They won because Jacksonville shat the bed. So I don't know. And then as for the NFC is wide open. Anybody can beat anybody in the playoffs. And yeah, okay, maybe the Lions aren't good. And they just lost to Seattle, who got killed by the Rams and this and that. But I don't know. If it's not the Lions, it's the Rams for me. I'm a delusional fan. I'm going to pick the guys I like.
Yeah.
So the 49ers, they're great. They're great. Brock Purdy had his worst game as a pro against the Rams. He overthrew 3 wide open receivers that would have been touchdowns, way overthrew them. It looked like the Garoppolo pass in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs is what it looked like. And I as a 49ers hater, got like flashbacks. And I was like, first of all, if he goes down, season's over because they've got Sam Darnold. And if he doesn't go down, it's fine. But again, he's playing with the best team in the world around him. At the end of the day, this guy is Stetson Bennett at Georgia. This guy is Mac Jones at Alabama. The ceiling, if you force that team, if they have any major injuries, I don't know. I don't trust the 49ers. I never do. I think that Shanahan's probably the best coach in the NFL, but he's also the best coach in the NFL at choking. He's responsible for 28-3. He's responsible for the choke in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. He choked at the NFC Championship game against the Rams 2 years ago. They were up 17-7 in the fourth quarter, and we won that game 20-17. He is responsible for some of these all-time great NFL chokes. And to be honest, if Brock Purdy didn't go down last year in the NFC Championship, probably would have figured out a way to choke that one out too.
Yeah. Well, I actually think it's fair to say Jags will win the AFC. I think AFC is pretty much open to a lot of the elite teams, and Jacksonville is one of those teams, in my opinion. So, I mean, anything's possible. We could see the Lions. I hope the Lions go. I would love to see the Lions go to the Super Bowl.
I think the Lions can still make the playoffs with the way the NFC North is looking this year. It's very, very likely. I mean, their biggest opponent there is going to be the Vikings, and we've seen the Vikings already lose to the Bucs first game. We like the Bucs around here, but the Bucs just aren't it this season. Who knows? I don't know. But Alex, that's really interesting. That's funny that you didn't even say like the 49ers at first. It's all relying on Brock Purdy. I agree with you. I think the 49ers can go to the Super Bowl this year, though. They just run the ball. Just run the ball.
Okay. Run the ball. CMC is made of glass. He's been made of glass his whole career. What makes you think that he's not going to go down in week 5? Like, and then he goes down. Sure, they've got backups. They've got backups, and Shanahan is the best running coordinator of all time. Like, literally. Freaking amazing. But at some point, this is a passing league. You have to throw the ball. And Ayuk is hurt right now. And Debo is injury prone. And Kittle is made of glass. I just feel like their whole team is and they're not top heavy. They have depth. They have so much depth. And everybody expected their defense to be the best thing in the world. And they kicked the shit out of Kenny Pickett. But Stafford, with no Cooper Kupp, was dicing them up.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah, the 49ers air defense is not good this season at all. Their rush defense is great, but I don't know.
What happens? What happens when the 49ers meet the Lions what happens when the 49ers meet the Lions in the playoffs and the 49ers have one corner injury and CMC is playing, but he's got a knee issue and he looks slower than usual. And those are the only two injuries that you can think of. Okay. I think the Lions win that game 9 times out of 10 because the Lions have the best offensive line, top 5 offensive line in the NFL. I think that they can hold up against the pass rush. Penei Sewell is going to have a career year. He's having a career year so far. If Jared Goff doesn't make the big mistake, I'm telling you, they can dice up those corners. They've got a great receiving core. Jamison Williams would be back by then. So they'll have a real deep threat, which they don't have right now. Hopefully Amon-Ra is healthy by then. And if they crowd the box, I trust their corners. It's the first time in my life that I'm saying I trust the Lions corners, but I fully trust the Lions corners.
I mean, CJ Gardner is also, he's got to be healthy too in that game.
Of course, but that's what I said. I said the only injuries
is on the 49ers. If it's on the 49ers, then yeah, because they are so reliant on all their players being healthy. I mean, we just saw what happened last year. They could have, came and won against the Eagles if they had Brock Purdy.
But they didn't, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I know.
But he went down literally immediately. Aaron Rodgers style.
Yeah, sad stuff.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for the NFL part. We have a few questions in the NBA we wanted to talk to you about. And the first one, we ask all basketball questions with our guests, and it's, is LeBron the GOAT in your opinion?
LeBron's the GOAT.
LeBron is the GOAT?
Yes.
Interesting.
And what, just elaborate for us. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just saying, I'm curious because everybody's got different points of views on why LeBron is a GOAT.
People love to act like Michael Jordan's career was 6 years long. It was not. I've got all the same points as everybody else. Never won a playoff game without Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
LeBron has 4 rings with 3 different coaches, with 3 different number 2s, with 3 different franchises. But my whole thing for LeBron being the GOAT, I could recite to you all the numbers, whatever. Those runs, that playoff run where it was just him in Cleveland, was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I remember sitting down, watching TV. I was 17, 18 years old. And that stacked Celtics team. And he is the only player on the Cavs. And just winning. Well, it was just the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it was incredible. Every time we ask this question, I get swayed. I really don't know what to pick at times. Sometimes it's LeBron. There's good points on both sides, I have to admit. But
the big thing, the big argument for why neither of them is the GOAT, which I actually really like this one, is neither of them, they're equal because Jordan faced his toughest competition in the East and LeBron faced his toughest competition in the finals. And that's all it is. I just Brady is the GOAT, obviously. There's no question. If somebody says to me, has the audacity to tell me that Peyton Manning or somebody else is the best football player of all time, I immediately know that you are trolling. There is no reason for you to say that. So obviously Brady's the GOAT. But Brady would still be the GOAT, in my opinion, if he had 3 Super Bowls and just lost all the ones he won.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they lose the no-score game to the Rams when it was 13-3, if they lose that game, if they lose to the Chiefs in Tampa Bay, if they lose the first one against the Eagles, and they lose the Panthers one, he's still the GOAT There's no question about it. It doesn't matter that he's less championships than Joe Montana. He's been to 11. It's the same thing with LeBron. LeBron from 11 to 2019 was a walking finals berth. To say that that guy is worse than the guy that has never won a playoff game without his second best player and the undisputed greatest basketball coach of all time is ridiculous.
Yeah. No, and the funny thing is like every time we get a guest on, typically they go to LeBron, and it's always been like me and Mike are like, maybe Jordan, maybe this, but I mean the real argument does come from what you kind of mentioned earlier. It's who's kind of the GOAT of every decade. Like you got your Kareem in the 70s, your Magic in the 80s, your Jordan in the 90s, and LeBron is actually can be considered the GOAT for multiple decades.
Mm-hmm.
So
He absolutely can.
all right. So one of our last kind of NBA questions for you would be the big thing for you last year was the like no shave through the playoffs. I remember seeing on the podcast, that was a big thing. Is that going to come back this season if the Heat go to the playoffs?
Absolutely. Every year, if your team
Okay.
is in the playoffs, it is a playoff beard until your team loses. I did it the Rams Super Bowl year. I did it. I would have continued to do it because a lot of NBA fans don't know this, but I'm obviously just said on the podcast on here that I'm a Florida Panthers fan. We made the finals, the Stanley Cup finals in Florida Panthers. So the Heat would have been out in the first round like all of the geniuses predicted.
Mm-hmm.
I would have had that beard the same length because of the Panthers.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Playoff beard. I'll be doing it for the Rams this year because the Rams.
Yeah, I love it. I love the enthusiasm there.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for NBA. We're going to go into what's your thing now. It's the agree, disagree section. There's going to be some movie ones in there we want to hear from you about.
Oh, yeah.
We do have two sports one we want to do first.
Let's do it.
The first one is NFL is better than college football.
All right.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
No.
You disagree?
I'm the only one. I knew I would. I called it when we were making this. I was like, Alex is gonna say it, man. What you want me to go?
What's your
My
reason?
reason?
What's your reason?
Okay, there's a lot that goes into this. College football, and I'm sure that most of your typical points are gonna be NFL has better play. It's more professional, everything like that. There's less passion. I love the passion. It doesn't just come from the players, it comes from the fan bases. Now you do have your Alexes of the world who like are diehards for the Rams and everything like that. It's different. It's different in college. You got drunk college kids every weekend going up against people, fighting each other, everything like that. People talk about the most passionate fan bases in the world are over in the European soccer leagues. The same atmosphere where you have 30,000 fans chanting at somebody happens over in college football. I don't see that in NFL. I don't see that in NFL at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and also let's talk about the tailgates too. Tailgates for college football are just 10 times better. I mean, we're not even talking about the football right now. The tailgates for NFL fans are a bunch of 60-year-olds, like just, they've been there since NFL was created. They're just having a burger.
Well, the gentleman sitting to your left, or it looks like your left. No, so you're right. The gentleman sitting to your right is wearing a Red Sox jersey. And as we learned earlier in this podcast, he is a Patriots fan. I would like you to make that same statement to the family of the Dolphins fan that just lost their life.
I knew you were going to bring it. Either you were going to bring it up or I was going to bring it. There's
That wasn't passion. That wasn't.
Somebody killed a guy because they're such a freaking big Patriots fan.
He died in the stands because
he died at an NFL game.
Okay, how often does that happen? How often does that happen?
I haven't seen it in college football.
I've never seen somebody die in college football.
Fights break out more in college football than NFL, more than anything.
You've never been to SoFi. SoFi's got some.
No, I do. This isn't SoFi, but I do agree that there's a lot of fights that break out with Raiders games. I mean,
and Eagles games.
Oh, and Eagles games, of course.
The Eagles burned down the city when they won the Super Bowl.
Thank you. Thank you.
They had to declare martial law in Philadelphia because the fucking Eagles fans went so nuts.
There's still more passion.
I have no problem with your argument. And I know plenty of people that prefer college. I do not, but I love college football. I have no problem. My mom is one of my favorite people to watch football with, and she significantly prefers college to pro, at least for most of her life.
Yeah.
She's a little bit, as am I, fallen in love with Scott Hansen and Red Zone. So she might be an NFL gal now, but my mom all my life has been a college football girl. I got no problem with you saying college is better than pro. I know a million people that feel that way. But if your only argument is passion, I've got to.
That was what I started with. That's what I started with.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to say this, like me and Mike talk about this a lot. He grew up with NFL. I grew up with college. Like it's more of just kind of who you grow up with. And I see this tend with a lot of my friends. If you grow up with more NFL, then that's what you're into. But nothing is better than college game day either, man. Like you wake up, I don't care if NFL kickoff is on, whatever. They got Terry Bradshaw talking nonsense. When it comes to Lee Corso on college game day, nothing gets better than that. I mean,
college game day is by far the best pre-show. I will absolutely give you that. I will absolutely give you that. Here's what I think is the best argument for college football. The stakes are so much higher.
And that's what I was going to get to as well.
Like that, I think your best argument is you can lose. You can go 0-2, and most Bengals fans still think they're a Super Bowl team right now. If you go 0-2 in college football, you're one of the worst teams in college football. You are done. You are dead in the water. Good luck even getting a bowl game.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm a parody guy. And NIL is only going to make parody less.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, also, I don't know, there's a lot, but that is the best argument for sure. With 0-2, I mean, we're for college football. If Bama goes 0-2, they still might have a little bit of hope because it's Bama. But whenever it's like you're 0-2 and you're a mid-tier typical SEC team, you're just like, all right, it's over. And I mean, the playoffs are expanding, which is going to be great. But the most losses you'll probably see in the expanded playoffs is 3 losses. We just had last year an 8-9 Bucks team go to the playoffs, and it's just like, we kind of already know they're going to get killed.
Yeah.
When it comes to college football, you're like, I mean, we saw what happened with TCU, but at least they beat Michigan. At least they did beat Michigan.
Yeah, that's my thing. I just
and if it's like with the blowouts too, like there does typically happen to be more blowouts in college football, but those are scheduled. They're supposed to be blowouts. In NFL, I mean, blowouts still happen. You just had 40-0 Giants versus Cowboys.
That was a primetime game.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, but we can move on to our next one.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
The next one I have, it's basketball. It's if the Heat get Damian Lillard, they will win the championship that year.
3, 2, 1, go. I don't know. I'm agreeing with this one.
You really think they'll win?
Yeah, I do.
Right away.
I think we will get Dame.
I do too.
I think that it will be a final. If we don't get Dame, I don't think we're going to make the finals again. If we do get Dame, I think it's going to be a finals rematch to a T. I do not think Dame beats the Nuggets. I do not think that getting Dame puts us over the Nuggets, and I think the Nuggets go back to back. The Nuggets are so fucking good. Holy shit.
Okay, but what if it isn't the Nuggets? What if it isn't the Nuggets? I mean,
if it's not the Nuggets, we're gonna mop the floor with whoever it is. If we have Dame, in my opinion,
and that's what I'm looking at more here. I think that if it isn't the Nuggets,
I don't see a universe where it's not the Nuggets. I don't think. Okay. I do not think there is a team that can beat the Nuggets for the next 3 years. I'm not saying they're going to win the next 3 championships, but what I'm saying is like bar injuries, no injuries, none of this. Like, I am pro super team, which is a ridiculous statement to say. It's a ridiculous thing when you hear that.
Yeah.
But it makes the NBA better.
Mm-hmm.
Because LeBron, Wade, Bosh, now everybody has to have 3 stars. If you want to compete, you have to have 3 stars. Mm-hmm. And then it's the Golden State dynasty. Now everybody has to be the best shooter on the court except for one Draymond Green type. Right? And now with the Nuggets, not only do you all have to be able to shoot, you also have to be enormous. Everybody has to be 8 feet tall and be able to guard Giannis, no problem. and it just makes the game better. And the Nuggets are why Victor Wembanyama exists.
Hey man, Victor Wembanyama. This is kind of off topic, but how do you think he's gonna do?
I think he'll be great. I think, everybody that says, "Oh, he's got too much pressure on him. Oh, if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, he's a bust." Bullshit. They were saying the same shit about Zion. They're saying the same shit about Zion, and Zion can't stop eating ice cream, and nobody cares. Like,
It's true.
No, yeah, I agree with you there, Alex.
Well, let's move on to the movies area now.
Yeah.
It's the last segment of the podcast. We have 3 things here. The first one, it's Revenge of the Sith is the best Star Wars movie.
y'all are trying to get me murdered out here.
All right, ready?
All right.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, come on.
Oh my gosh. How obnoxious. How old are the both of you?
I'm 19.
Yeah, I'm 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right. Yeah, y'all are making me feel old as fuck. I don't think I've ever met somebody over the age of 25 that has that opinion. And that's just what it is. It's a generational thing. I love Revenge of the Sith. I do. I really do. I love it. But New Hope is a masterpiece. It's literally the most important movie of all time. Empire Strikes Back is probably the best movie of all time.
Empire Strikes Back, I can see, I understand people saying that one over.
I hate what you just said. I hate that because you only said that to disrespect New Hope. Oh, I understand.
I don't
right,
think
so-
New Hope is better than Revenge of the Sith at the end of the day.
Ridiculous statement. That's
You would prefer the Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader fight in New Hope compared to the Obi-Wan versus Anakin fight in Revenge of the Sith.
Star Wars is not just who's got the coolest lightsaber battle. That's not what Star Wars is. I hate this. I cannot believe it. If that was the case, then the best Star Wars project ever would be season 6, episode 24 of Clone Wars, where Darth Maul and his brother fight the Emperor. That fight is awesome. Guess what? Is it better than Empire Strikes Back? Absolutely not. What a ridiculous statement. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. When was the last time you saw Revenge of the Sith?
Probably like last year.
Probably
Last
like
year.
2 months ago.
So you're a little rusty. You're not going to remember everything that happens in it. Let me tell you some real dialogue. This is a real scene from Revenge of the Sith. What you are claiming is the best Star Wars movie of all time. Anakin and Padme are on the balcony, and he goes, "You're so beautiful." And she's like, "It's only because I'm so in love." And he's like, "No, it's only because I'm so in love with you." And she's like, "So love has blinded you?" That's a real conversation that happens in Revenge of the Sith. And you have the audacity to tell me that that's better than New Hope. Ridiculous.
Because it is.
Ridiculous.
All right, we'll move on to the next one here.
Mhm.
Next one we have here is Robert Pattinson will be a better Batman than Christian Bale when he is done making his Batman movies. All right, ready?
All right.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, okay.
This one is questionable in my opinion. I think
Yeah.
he could, but at the end of the day, I don't think he will. I just think the Dark Knight trilogy is like too good to. All of them are good movies.
What do you have?
I think, I don't know if you know this. I'm the Batman hater. I don't hate it. I think it's good. But like, I think that the people that say it's like the best superhero movie ever, or one of the best Batman movies or whatever, like I think it's easily 4th place at best. I think it's clearly worse than the Dark Knight trilogy, all 3 of them. It's really long. And I think Batman's the biggest idiot in that movie. He doesn't solve anything. And everybody's like, "Oh, he's finally a detective." He doesn't solve anything. It's crazy. So I'm actually pretty low on that movie compared to like the general public. So,
Yeah.
But like, yeah, Pattinson could be great. And I trust Matt Reeves. He is responsible for my favorite trilogy of all time, which is the Planet of the Apes trilogy. So like maybe, but no. I would say it's a clear no for Ben Affleck. I think Ben Affleck's the best Batman of all time.
Oh, interesting. I was
Yeah.
not
Like I don't think Pattinson has even a chance to beat Affleck for me.
Not a chance. Like
No.
not even in the slightest.
No. Like already I know he's not better than Affleck. And I don't think he can become better than Affleck. But Affleck is like the perfect representation. My favorite comic of all time is a comic called The Dark Knight Returns. And it's like Batman v Superman is that comic. Like it's trying very hard to be that comic. They changed a lot of shit, but that's what it is. And like they nailed Batman. Batman's perfect. It's like perfect. Everything's perfect. So like I don't think I'll ever see a Batman on screen that I like more than Ben Affleck. But that's just my bias. I have no problem with somebody saying that Christian Bale or even Robert Pattinson's better. But for me, I don't think I'm ever going to see somebody that tops it. But obviously, Batman Begins and Dark Knight are clearly better than Batman v Superman as movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like Ben Affleck hasn't been done the justice of having his own solo Batman movie than everyone.
And he never will. And he never will, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, the next one I have here, we have two more. One, this is the last movie one, and this one is Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. All right. Ready?
Oh man. Yeah. This one's always a
this
tough
one's a
one.
tough one.
Yeah.
All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
All right. I'll agree.
I want to go agree.
Uh,
I will say
I have no problem. I
Yeah.
have no problem with you, and I have no problem with you saying that. I have no argument. My favorite is Tom,
Mhm.
but Andrew Garfield is clearly the best actor. And in No Way Home, he is Spider-Maning circles around the other two. Like he is way better than Toby and Tom in their scenes together in No Way Home. But his movies are just so bad. And there's some stuff in those movies that like it's not his fault, but it's just it puts him out of contention. Like there's the great scene where he's like, oh my gosh, that's my weakness, small knives. And then he just beats the shit out of the guy inexplicably and becomes Batman. Like it's like it's like there's so like he could have been, but he's not for me.
Yeah, the reason I put him as that is because Amazing Spider-Man was like my Spider-Man movies. I was young when those were the Spider-Mans I was introduced with. So I'm gonna ride with him. My brother's is Tobey Maguire. His Spider-Man was Tobey Maguire. So I understand why people say it. I just have to personally go with Andrew Garfield. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm just going with him because he's so cool. I mean, whenever it comes to like a Spider-Man, me and Mike had this conversation. It was for me either going to be Toby or it was going to be Andrew. Toby for me, he's just a great Peter Parker. He's kind of like nerdier, kind of like how Peter Parker was portrayed at the beginning. And Andrew Garfield is a really good Spider-Man. I think he has one of the best suits, if I'm being honest. And like you said, I mentioned this to Mike before, he wasn't done justice in the movies. Like the movies, I remember at the time, nobody liked Andrew Garfield because the movie sucked. And whenever they got a sequel, it was kind of like, really, we're getting a sequel of this? And then it was like, then the third one was kind of announced and everybody was like, nah, just nah. And then it obviously got canceled. So it's funny to see how not only with the Revenge of the Sith, how everyone's kind of came back with that, and then also with Andrew Garfield, but I'm a ride with it.
Exactly how you just described TASM and TASM 2 is exactly how I feel about Revenge of the Sith. When they came out, I was 5 when Revenge of the Sith came out. That movie means the universe to me. I've seen that movie probably more than any other Star Wars movie. And I don't think it's bad. Right? Like, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I love that movie, and I think it's good. I think it's clearly the best prequel, obviously. Yeah. But, like, how I feel about that movie is probably how some TASM haters or deniers feel about TASM post No Way Home. From 2005 to 2017, there was harmony on the internet. Nobody liked the TASM movies, and nobody liked Revenge of the Sith. And the prequels, the Star Wars prequels, everybody thought they were bad. And then our generation and your generation, like people our age who grew up with the prequels, finally in 2017, we were old enough to have a presence on social media and be like, no. Revenge of the Sith is like the best thing ever. By the way, best thing ever. And I was part of that. I was like, fuck you guys that hate this movie. This movie's awesome. But I think that we have gone too far.
Yeah.
I think we have taken it too far. And I think we are getting to the point where after No Way Home, it's gone too far with TASM. Andrew, my co-host, TASM 2 is like his third favorite Spider-Man movie. That's unacceptable. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's terrible. Like that movie, Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin is a disaster.
Yeah, that's
Jamie
bad.
Foxx getting electrocuted so his teeth go back into place, terrible. Like there's some awful stuff in that movie. For it to be his third favorite is just crazy. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, the last question we have is
Yeah.
CFA.
Chick-fil-A, of course.
is the best fast food.
Man, we just want to get to know, like, what are your food preferences? That's what we're
All
going
right,
for here.
ready? 3, 2, 1.
I don't know. I'm gonna disagree on this one.
No disrespect to Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A.
So good.
I just don't know what my answer would be.
Yeah. I just put it at the top because I'm sure there's better, but like going every time Chick-fil-A is gonna be good. But if I go to like McDonald's, sometimes like it's just bad. It's not consistently good. Chick-fil-A, on the other hand, in my opinion, always good.
I think that to oppose that, I've been to Chick-fil-A when it's bad, and like that's what kind of puts me like sometimes
Oh,
the
really?
chicken, isn't cooked fully. Like that's happened to me, or like the like fries haven't been like the fries get just as soggy as McDonald's fries sometimes.
Mm.
And also whenever you get a bunch of the butt fries, like what is up with that? Like they really hate me over there. But don't get me wrong, I love Chick-fil-A. I get it, probably once every other week,
Yeah.
if not sometimes more. But
Chick-fil-A is great, high ceiling. I mean, high ceiling, but also high floor. High floor with Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, when you go, it's not going to be that bad. And like you just said, McDonald's has a low floor. McDonald's has a low floor, but I think McDonald's ceiling is higher. I think McDonald's is kind of a Josh Allen situation where
yeah.
at its best, McDonald's is the best fast food restaurant. At its worst, it'll lose you a game to Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, Taco Bell.
And yeah, like that's the issue. Are we counting Chipotle?
Man, that question gets brought up
That
a lot. Is it fast food? Is it not? I mean, I would consider it fast food.
Yeah, I probably would too.
All right. So if we're considering Chipotle's another low floor for me. The ceiling isn't as high as Chick-fil-A, but it's got a low floor.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a bunch of there's just kind of a bunch of restaurants, fast food restaurants that I think are in the conversation, but Chick-fil-A is certainly in that Mahomes conversation. I have no problem with somebody saying that Chick-fil-A is the best, unquestioned. But I also got a docket points for not being available on Sunday.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
You always want it on the Sunday, man.
It's always Sunday.
Right? Like we always dock, we dock CMC because he's never available. He's always injured. When he was on the practice, he was always injured. We dock him. So we gotta dock Chick-fil-A for not being available on Sundays.
Some
Yep.
points off there.
Well,
That's gonna do it.
That's gonna do it for us today, everyone. Thank you so much, Alex, for coming on. We had a blast doing this. If you ever want to come back on, we would love to have you. But Nick,
Yeah, if you guys haven't already, go make sure you check out the Escape Pod podcast. Great name, by the way. And and yeah, go check out Alex's content. He has a great co-host, Andrew. They have some fun stuff. I mean, if you guys are watching this, you probably already know Hat Guy, Alex, and yeah, I look forward to seeing more of your clips on TikTok. It's always on my For You page.
yeah,
Love it. And man, it's been a blessing to have you on, Alex, and we hope you do some more great stuff in life.
Thank you, boss. I really appreciate y'all having me. I had a great fucking time with you, gentlemen.
thank you.
Thank you, man.